We are joined now by Nicole Parker, who is a former FBI agent. She is with us now. And Nicole, I imagine a lot of people have seen you on Fox News in the past several days. You have been spending a lot of time talking about what has occurred in both New Orleans and Las Vegas. But as a preliminary, this is the first time for you coming on the show. Thank you. You and I met at Mar-a-Lago about a month or so ago. But for people who don't know your background, introduce yourself to the audience. Happy New Year. Thanks for being with us.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure. And Happy New Year to you as well. Unfortunately, we're speaking under these circumstances, but just by way of background, yes, I was an FBI special agent for about 13 years. I served in the Miami field office and focused originally on white-collar crime and then transferred over to violent crime and worked the majority of my career on violent crime, South Florida's Violent Crime Fugitive Task Force, and, responded to some pretty large investigations that the FBI conducted to include, the Fort Lauderdale airport shooting, the Cesar Sayas pipe bomb case, the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Parkland school shooting. And so unfortunately, tragedy is not something new to me. Prior to my career in the FBI, I actually did work in finance and on Wall Street, and I was a witness to the 9/11 terrorist attacks in New York City. I was working at Merrill Lynch at the time, and it was because of that tragedy that I was inspired to later go on and serve my country and join the FBI. So here we are discussing a terrorist attack that occurred, unfortunately, on New Year's Day. I think that all of us were very hopeful and optimistic for 2025. That it could be a year of peace and prosperity and health and success. I know when I got the phone call, it was early, New Year's morning, and Fox called and said, "Hey, have you heard about this attack?" And I went for my morning run, came right inside, turned on the news, and I've been reporting on it ever since.
All right, we're talking to Nicole Parker. I want to go back to your joining the FBI in the wake of 9/11. What did you see in your 13 years in the FBI in terms of the trajectory of the FBI from the time you joined until the time you left? Was it the same organization?
No, it was not the same organization. When I originally joined, I came in just as a patriot who loves America and thought this would be a good way to serve and give back. I mean, the morning of 9/11, there were officers from NYPD that literally saved myself and many others and directed us away from the World Trade Center, away from the World Financial Center. And I just remembered thinking, you know what, one day I want to give back. And I thought that the FBI was a great vehicle in order to serve my country. And when I originally came in, I'll be honest, I wasn't sure if it mattered what my political preferences were. And I was immediately told, no, it does not matter who the president is. This is an apolitical organization. Whether you voted for Obama or didn't vote for Obama, it's irrelevant. Because that was the administration that I started with the FBI was back in 2010. I applied in 2009, came in 2010. I was told apolitical, don't worry about it. I come to the organization, I'm working white collar, and I'll be honest, I loved it. I was very passionate about what I was doing. I didn't consider the FBI a job. I considered it a mission, and I really felt that I was making an impactful difference in this country. And then, so I served under the Obama administration. Then I went into the Trump administration, and it was during the Trump administration that I actually transferred over to violent crime. Prior to that, I worked under the Obama administration and Trump administration working violent crime. And I can tell you, I noticed a substantial difference between the administrations. When Trump came in, he said, look, we have a violent crime problem in this country, and we need help. And I initially remembered we were asked to do temporary assignments to Chicago at the time when Trump first came in. Trump's priority was not to go after his political opponents. It was not to go after Hillary Clinton, who's been given a pass. It was not to go after any of his opponents. It was really to protect the American people. And I thought that's just how it should be, right? So then I served under the Trump administration, went through some awful things, witnessed some awful tragedies. But again, I'm there to serve the people. And that was our priority, was protecting Americans, upholding the Constitution. Then, with the debacles that occurred behind the scenes, Clay, it was in 2016 when things really started shifting with the Operation Crossfire Hurricane, also known as the Russia collusion hoax. But again, that was all happening in D.C. and in headquarters, and that didn't involve me in Miami. over the years, the politicization of the FBI became so deafening that it was impossible to do my job as a violent crime agent in the Miami division, because it just kept the nonsense that was happening on the political level was inhibiting us on the rank and file trying to do the real work. We were completely distracted by the nonsense going on at the Washington field office, headquarters, and their places dealing with politics. But again, I just kept trying to shut it out. Not my problem. I'm not doing that. I'm not involved in that. Then the Biden administration comes in, and there were some drastic changes again. And I think from 2016 on, the FBI just never got on track. You know, we went through Jim Comey. I worked under Mueller, Comey, and Wray. And from Operation Crossfire Hurricane, I just don't believe that there was ever full accountability for those that were involved in that. And so we were all hoping Ray's going to come in and he's going to fix it and we're going to get back on track. Unfortunately, that's not what happened. Ray has not proven to be a leader. He has not been proven to stand up to Merrick Garland and to a lot of this political nonsense. Aside from the politicization, I think it's also important to note that the FBI became socially weaponized as well. It is woke, the diversity initiatives going on at the agency. I started to wonder if I worked for a social justice warrior club rather than a law enforcement agency. And that was particularly bad under the Biden administration. My closest friend in the FBI, Special Agent Laura Schwarzenberger, was shot and killed in the line of duty February 2nd of 2021, right when Biden had just taken over. And I never got a clear explanation as to what happened to my friend. But every single day, I got emails about diversity clubs and initiatives. And I thought, why are you not telling us what happened to two agents that were killed in the line of duty? First time adversarial deaths in 14 years. They were killed protecting children. But yet I get an email every day about diversity. And it was absolutely astounding to me. But the social weaponization and the political weaponization, we just saw how clearly they were going after Republicans, conservatives, Trump supporters over and over and over. Yet they were turning a blind eye to those on the opposite side of the political spectrum. Summer of 2020, FBI did virtually nothing. January 6th, they're still going full throttle on that 4 years later. So if that gives you any indication, that's kind of where I stood. It got so bad that I said, you know what? I'm going to cut my losses now, and I'm going to leave the FBI, and I think I can make a stronger impact outside of the FBI than inside the agency. And it was sad for me, Clay, because I loved being an FBI agent. I worked tirelessly, and I did work with some amazing people. But, you know, they needed to stay. They needed to get their pensions. They kept their heads low, stay off the radar. And I just thought, you know what, I'm just not comfortable with what I'm seeing going on. And what was I going to do? Call Christopher Wray and tell him I don't agree with what's going on? We've seen Christopher Wray testify before Congress multiple times, and he thinks everything at the agency is great. Nothing to see here. So if you can't acknowledge that there's a problem, there's a very low probability that that problem will ever be fixed. And that was why I made the decision to walk away.
How much do you think the FBI's lack of focus and direction, and sometimes misdirection, as you said, focused on January 6th, protesters outside of abortion clinics, school board meeting parents, certainly rummaging through the underwear drawer of Melania Trump and conducting investigations of Trump himself, has to do with missing actual terrorists like the man who killed 15 people in New Orleans?
So, you know, I always am very fair. I'm a very fair and straight shooter. I have integrity. And when I know the FBI is wrong, I will call them out. I can tell you that terrorism, counterterrorism cases are very complex and difficult to work, right? Especially those that involve ISIS, foreign terrorist organization groups. The FBI can a lot of times have information on certain individuals, but until they make an action and they act out and they commit a criminal act, they can't just go arrest people that might be on their radar. From what I understand, based on the press conference today by the FBI, which, by the way, was substantially better than the ones yesterday, because yesterday was a train wreck.
Let me ask you about that. The agent who got up and said there's no terrorism here, it's not a terrorism incident, despite the fact you have an ISIS flag. They took photos of it, all of those things. How does that happen? Like, what do you think's going on, the difference? They had a new person speaking today compared to yesterday.
Okay, I'm just going to be blunt and honest. I actually know that agent that was on yesterday. She used to be in the Miami division. And I like to think, you know, I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. I'm sure she was under a lot of pressure and a lot of stress. All I'm going to say is that when you are put in a position to represent the FBI, no one is perfect, but you need to have your ducks in a row and you need to know what you're talking about. And we need to make sure that the FBI is promoting those that should be promoted based on merit. And if you are not, those cracks start to show in high stress situations like that. I always like to be fair. If I was walking in her shoes, that would be very difficult. But at the same time, that was wrong. What she did, I was out there on Fox immediately after trying to say, this actually is terrorism. And she was refuting exactly what, the locals had just said and what the mayor had just said. And she said it with such definitive statement. This is not terrorism. It absolutely was terrorism. It is terrorism. And I think the FBI realized very quickly that was bad and that they needed to bring someone down from headquarters, which they did. And thankfully, this individual, Christopher Wray, not to be confused with Christopher Wray, came in and did this press conference, and it was substantially better. He has experience. He talked about how he responded to, I believe, the Boston Marathon. That's the problem at the FBI. Americans lack confidence in the FBI because you put someone out there for a press conference, and they're giving you false information, and that doesn't really, inspire a lot of trust. And because
how much difference
Americans
do you think,
already don't trust the FBI, then that's a problem. It just makes things worse.
That's a really important point, the lack of trust. I know most people, frankly, listening to us right now, don't trust the FBI, and that is an incredible communication deficit that the FBI is going to have to make up, and that trust deficit. How much difference
Correct.
do you think the director being Kash Patel would make based on your knowledge?
I just, at this point, honestly, I hope and pray that there are drastic reforms at the FBI, and I trust President Trump. He is very wise. He knows what he's doing. I know last time he listened to certain individuals and put in Christopher Wray. I think this time around, I just want to believe it's going to get better because, frankly, it really cannot get worse. And let me make this very clear. There are two FBIs, okay? FBI 1, I've kind of coined these phrases. FBI 1, these are the honest, hardworking, rank-and-file agents that are trying to do the right thing for the right reasons and have pure motivation.
Of FBI employees do you think are in that group, that hardworking, trying to do the right side?
Right.
How would you
just
break
honest
it down?
People people that want nothing to do with the politics, they just want to serve the American people, versus FBI 2, which are people that are woke, politically weaponized. Sometimes they're in leadership roles. Sometimes they're just a rank and file analyst. It's not just people up in D.C. That needs to be made very clear as well. FBI 2 has infiltrated all the field offices at various levels. So it's really kind of more your approach. FBI 1 versus FBI 2, I would say at this point, I would have said in the past, 80-20, FBI 1, 80%, FBI 2, 20%. I'd say now a solid 50-50. Again, hard for me to know, but we just need hard-working, solid agents because, Clay, it's not just, what is your political, are you a hard worker? Were you hired based on merit? Because they have dropped the hiring standards. The FBI denies it, but I look at the hiring standards and I've dissected them and they have dropped the hiring standards. And so it's really just the people that are there. Are you qualified? Are you working hard? Are you putting your political and social opinions at the door when you walk in? Okay, because look, I don't care who you're supporting. I don't care what your political opinion is. It shouldn't matter. Lady Justice should be blind. But there are a lot of people that are incapable of doing that. And when we were watching FBI agents in the Washington field office kneeling to BLM protesters in the summer of 2020 in their FBI vests on official duty, that is unacceptable. When we are seeing patterns of this type of behavior, and you know what, Clay, those individuals, many of them actually got promoted to very highly sought after positions. They were offered $100 gift cards from the FBI Agents Association afterwards. They decline them, but this is the kind of stuff. They reward bad behavior. It all has to change. It's time for change. And FBI 1, they are sick and tired of it because you know what? When you're trying to do the right thing for the right reason and no one trusts you, that's how it became for me. I kept having to justify who I was and say, oh, no, I'm not like Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. Like, I have nothing to do with them. People didn't even trust me. I'm out there trying to recruit sources to report on human trafficking. No one even wants to work for me. They hear FBI, they slam the door in your face. It used to be FBI, oh my gosh, like respect. Now, Not so much. And I'm being honest with you. There are good people holding the line at the FBI, but we need to get the percentage back to 100% FBI 1. We don't want two FBIs anymore. America deserves FBI 1, 100%. The taxpayers are the boss. And that's the problem with the FBI. They always think needs of the Bureau. No, it's actually needs of the American people. Because at the end of the day, I am sworn, I take an oath, and I swear to protect and uphold the Constitution and protect the American people. Frankly, they are my boss. My victims, that should be my number one priority. Not pushing my political and social agendas on America. Not going after my political opponent. That's wrong. So we need some integrity
Nicole,
back at the FBI and leadership.
amen. I know you've told President Trump all this. I think it's going to make a huge difference. We'll talk to you again soon. Appreciate the time. Thank you for everything you're doing.